there in the corner between Wenjun against Alireza Firouzja. Now, there's a significant rating difference between the two, so I would expect Alireza to somehow imbalance the game pretty early on and just provoke Ju to go forward.
That's a good summary of what we've seen, because if this pawn were on c3, I would say, oh, this looks quite nice for white. You have a healthy pawn chain. You have some good control of the center. But with the pawn on c5, even though I like the fact that that pawn is controlling some key squares, restricting the bishop on e7, it leaves behind this d4 pawn. A pawn's best friend is another pawn. That d4 pawn, it could be targeted later in the game. So for now, I like the spatial advantage of the pawn on c5, but perhaps later I don't like the pawn on d4 not having a buddy by its side.
Yeah, it reminds me of an opening that you could potentially get out of Alekhine defense, where white is invited just to come forward on the queen side. And the reasoning is exactly the same, that white, by just pushing the b4 pawn and the a4 pawn and the b5 pawn, yes, does kick around the knight, but ultimately it is the pressure against the weakness of d4 that will maintain the balance.
And we just saw a move being played. b4, b5 at some moment does seem like a logical plan, gaining even more space, but the knight can often reroute to squares on the king side, so you have to keep your eyes out for that. I think we should go back. There's only 11 moves in, but Ivanka, the reason I want to go back to the start is this looks like an exchange French. That was where I thought this was coming from. But then I saw white's first move. It was d4.
Yes, but then I think Alireza was being crafty. He went e6.
So we did
Uh,
go right back into the French, because white did not opt
yeah,
for c4, but rather e4.
yes. And this is a crafty move order if you have the French repertoire at your disposal, because you can meet c4 with a very quick c5 and maybe take the game into some kind of Benoni slash Benko slash Blumenfeld kind of territory. who has 2 connected pass pawn, it is over.
And she gets her bottle of water. She did leave the playing hall just outside for a second, likely trying to keep hydrated. But for Wenjun, I mean, her tournament feels like it's gaining quite a bit of a boost. And she, as you said, now has a new tournament to play. The rest day happened. She was 1 out of 4, beating Alireza Firouzja anytime, anywhere, any format, tournament. It doesn't matter. Getting that kind of victory, that's in some ways a career highlight, no matter what else you've done.
It's an incredible achievement, and the way that she's done it as well, with that really impressive endgame, the clever maneuvers, the technique, all the careful thought process behind everything, the way that she quickly moved rook f8 to go rook d8. You see her working everything out right now. It's been a real masterclass and a pleasure to watch. And her clock is ticking down, but she just needs to continue in the same vein, and the point will be hers.
I'm wondering if she doesn't even want to give up the g3 pawn and will play a move like king to e4, which is one of those, you don't have to be so precise, but I'm appreciative that you're going in this direction. It's just centralizing the king. Rook d8 is hard to stop anyway, or rook c8 in some positions, or rook g8 in others. Black's pawns are very loose here. And so maybe starting with the king, she
king
does
e4.
it, as I was talking about it, because she doesn't want the black king to enter at all.
Okay, nicely done. The rook. What about rook a3? Is her plan is just to go rook f3?
Or king f4, both available, because this rook still eyeing the d6 square. I think she can just go rook d8, rook d6 in that position.
Yeah. Well, the problem is rook d8 is happening regardless. And if Alireza goes passive with his rook, again, you have that rook shuffle, rook g8, then go to rook c8.
Too many weak pawns. And white with the active king and the extra pawn. And rook d7, it does stop this rook d8 plan, but rook c8 immediately scoops up the c6 pawn. So there is nothing he can do. If the clocks are accurate, he's got under 10 seconds. So he may end up losing on time, but it's the position that is really the problem.
Yeah, he moves his rook to a1.
Okay, so we see the rook going forward, and I think rook d8 is very straightforward, Jovanka. It's one of these end games where at times I'm like, okay, there's a chance, but here there is no chance after rook d8. If you can establish 2 unopposed passed pawns, black has no hope.
Yep, rook d8. It's been absolutely magnificent. And the technique that she's displayed, and we've said this time and time, rook d8, and I like the careful way that she moved the rook to that square. And Alireza, he's coming down to 20 seconds. And there you go. Wenjun, she takes her first point against none other than Alireza Firouzja. But what a game from the women's world champion. From start to finish, she played ambitiously and she displayed such fine endgame technique.
What a game from her. She went into an exchange French and played c4. She just started to get active, and she just had the best win of her career. Yes, she is the 4-time women's